missions here on ManHOOD, we're all dedicated to addressing men's health. Now, men's health isn't always a negative. It's a positive in many ways, but how you deal with that is what we're looking at in particular today. And that focus is on trauma. We're looking at a film that actually looks at that called Friends, where there's from childhood abuse going all the way to a relationship and abuse even in the relationship and how that is looked at and addressed. So Friends, I'm really excited to watch the film, let me say again. I've had the privilege of looking at it. So let's get straight into it as we deal with trauma. To my right, Johan Seaudike, behavior change consultant. To his right, the main actor in the show, Sheon Haku. As I said, the main actor, really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And to his right, the writer and director, let me make sure I'm getting this right, Akil Ormont.
Yes, first try.
First try. I try. So we're discussing here today trauma. We've all experienced it in some form or format, but we're going to discuss it through the film, through the lens of the film Friends. And what indeed we can all certainly relate to. So what I'd want, Akil, first of all, before we go into trauma in the wider scope, and what's the term? Dissociative
Personality disorder.
Dissociative.
No, not associative. Dissociative.
Dissociative.
Yes.
Dissociative personality disorder. Right. Clearly, I dissociated myself from that.
Clearly.
But let's have a bit of understanding about the film in itself, and then Sheon, what the role your character plays, and then let's have a wider discussion on the origination, like why.
Sure. So I always wanted to be like a filmmaker, and Friends kind of started off as a small little short film before I ended up working with Sheon, and it turned into like a full feature film and stuff like that. In terms of like the idea behind it, the why, the beginning of it was within Trinidad and Tobago, we have a lot of people that don't talk about their feelings, men especially. They keep that stuff right to the chest, they leave it there, and after a while, in some cases, they just kind of like self-destruct. Or transform into something else.
Implode or explode.
Implode or explode. They keep it there until they can't stay there anymore, and then they lose their mind more or less. And so I was thinking, what kind of person can go through that, or how does that look within Trinidad and Tobago? And with Sheon, we kind of built this character of Adam and kind of explore in a lot of ways what happened.
What's the character's name?
Adam.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. What happens when a good person goes through a really bad time and they don't have that support system, that they don't have people to kind of keep them in check or to help them work with these things, and we just slowly end up watching him break over the course of the movie. And he called it an odyssey of tragedy is how he describes like Adam's character and the journey he goes on.
Yeah.
And we just wanted it to make it as like raw and like authentic as possible. So there's something I think really beautiful but also scary of seeing a normal guy turn into something else because of that trauma, because of that heartbreak.
And you use the word then normal. I mean, I like the use of the word because what is deemed as normal, many people see it as, okay, well, normal is healthy. But the normal could just be that we're all walking around with all of these levels of trauma and just not addressing it. Or not just not addressing it, but the support system around you may not be there. You hear all the time people say you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone.
Yeah.
And is that a case of persons, and we address this on another episode, where people say, hey, you're good, or how are you? But really and truly, they don't care. They're not really asking, or if you sit down, you really say, hey, this is what I'm going through. It's like, bros, I really...
I'm not asking for all of that.
I ain't looking for the long talk and ringing my ears, I was just, or you to purge. I was just asking, basically.
I just needed 2 doubles, slight pepper, and let me move on.
And move on.
Yeah.
Bottom line. And so the question is, one, do you have a support system? Does the support, do the persons around you really know how to support you? What are the right things to say? Or is it what you're receiving? You know, there's this book by Khalil Gibran, The Prophet, that speaks about, when you talk about love languages, etc. So you may be in need of water, but someone's giving you wine all the time. It's like, yeah, but I'm giving you wine. But you're like, but I really need the water. And you may not be communicating that because of what you're going through. So tell me a bit about the character Adam in Friends.
Well, I was very fortunate to be part of this project. I started acting 11 years ago, acting school in Ireland. And when they brought the project forward to me, I found it was such a pure and beautiful soul, the character. And in the process of building the character, we've learned so much. We learned about dissociative personality disorder, something that he may have suffered from in childhood. And getting into the psyche of that character was such a heartbreaking tragedy, basically, to feel and to experience and to look at it through his lens. It's not a nice world that Adam has been subject to, and the way that he responds is as a result of what he has experienced in his past. And we tried our best to make it pure, authentic, and raw as we could. And thankfully, we were able, with trust and everyone being on the same sort of vision and path, able to portray that on film. And you really see this guy who, his intentions are pure, his love is pure, and when it's taken away from him, and he doesn't know how to respond, he doesn't have an avenue or help to address it, he reacts way over the top, essentially.
So there's a lot to unpack there, especially with the dissociative. Help me out.
Personality
disorder. This is your livelihood. This is what you do. So you're watching me like, you should know this thing.
I didn't see anything.
It's a degree I don't have yet.
Listen,
but
you are interpreting my facial reaction. Maybe you experiencing something.
Maybe I experiencing something. But as I was about to say, the show Friends, the film Friends, definitely has a lot to unpack inside of there. And even though I haven't been through any levels of abuse, childhood abuse or thereafter, breakups and how you react or view certain things certainly builds or breaks you in certain ways. And before we go any further, I think it's only fair that we show our viewers a trailer of the film Friends.
Oh, Adam, I didn't want to do it like this, but nothing else made sense. I'm sorry. This is for the best. I'm moving to San Fernando. Tesfa set me up with a place temporarily, and I don't want you to visit me.
Stay away from Nina. You can't keep me away from her. You make up some whole fantasy about it's true love, but that's not the truth, man.
I think we need some time apart.
I know you don't believe that. I know that. I never learned how to love. I never did. And if you give me another chance, I will do everything. And I will not stop until I get it right.
healthy. But you never know, maybe someday in the future we can still be.
So, but you want to say this would be the first time you would have seen that trailer?
Yes, and well, I want to address a few things you all said, and also the trailer is that when you were saying normal, right, a normal guy, you know, we always hear the argument of what is normal. We hear that a million times, and I was thinking now, people experiencing trauma in childhood actually is the norm now, because before we used to say that's abnormal, right? But one, in terms of my own personal life, and especially in professional life, helping both men and boys, trauma is the norm. And while I was thinking that, I was actually feeling a little sad at first, and then Robert said, you didn't experience any form of trauma, you said, as a child.
Well, abuse. Trauma, maybe the elements of it, how I may have perceived certain things in my life, but based on what is normalized as abuse, whether it be, I mean, I got caught from teachers, from school, from parents, or, you know, different persons. So now we may look at that in this day and age as abuse. But I don't think I was affected by it. It wasn't like I got a big stone.
So that's the thing when you're saying that, because last week I did 2 shows on abuse. And so me doing a little more research on abuse, let's say a simplified definition of abuse is the misuse of someone or something. And the misuse of it is sometimes as a personal thing, you know, because I may think insulting you is kicks. I just give an example, but you may think that's a misuse. So understanding abuse, and it's so nuanced, and that's why when I looked at the trailer, I need to look at the movie too. When I looked at the trailer and I saw the differing emotions of the character, I realized for men, for us men, is that many times that we interpret things in one way, but people may look at it as a different, something different. And sometimes that's why men would suffer alone, because when I'm feeling pain, somebody else may look and say, well, mom, to you, boy, that's normal. Or you may look at someone's life and say, well, they get plenty cut when I was young, and somebody else, the first cut in school or wherever it is, and it's traumatizing for them, and we may minimalize it. So going back first, misuse of someone, and a brethren of mine, when I was talking to him, he actually said abuse is abnormal use of someone, and that is a personal thing, and I'm using that because firstly, you have to know how you feel. As a man, I mean, speaking about men, it's men and women, but as a man, you have to know what is abnormal for you versus trying to compare to what others. And I'll set that premise for now.
And you know, I'm glad you said that at the end there, where you said men, these things affect men and women, but this is a men's show, a men's podcast, and we talk about men's health. So it's not like we're in any way minimizing or disconnecting or removing what we understand that women go through, but we're speaking specifically about what, especially through the show Friends, what a man went through and the experiences men have, which will be different to women, because, of course, if you go back to how men feel about certain things, and men being a provider and the hunter and all of these different things, how you react to, say, getting horned, or how you react to a woman telling you certain things is going to come from a totally different place than a woman who may be a bit, for lack of a better term, softer or less engaged in that ego that men may come from and may experience certain things. But what I want to ask you, Adam, Sheehan, in preparation, you always say actors prepare, especially when it's specific character roles, like you see Daniel Day-Lewis, and they really get immersed into it. And sometimes it's hard for them to disassociate afterwards, or it takes them years sometimes, which is why someone like Daniel Day-Lewis, I mean, I see he's now coming out with another film. It takes them many, many years, and some of them don't recover. Is it that, can you say that Friends, is there a part of it that you can say that you connected with, that you dug from to become that actor, or is it certainly something that you just, based on the skill set, removed yourself and was able to embrace Adam?
So I like that you use the word skill set, because skill set and talent are two different things. A skill is something you practice over time and develop. And for Adam, I went back to the basics from what we learned in school, what we were taught, and as I build the character, the first parts were building his backstory of childhood abuse, his age, where he lives, all these sorts of things. Then getting into his psyche is where we really found the crux of him. And that was, I mean, I dove pretty hard into it because we changed the way how he walked, his posture. We changed his tone, the way he's talking. His sentences are broken up because he's not reassured of himself. He's constantly wearing a cap. We did certain objective correlatives by putting a Band-Aid on his finger because he's always picking at it, and really went into a lot of detail for the character. And I mean, these guys could tell you, for about 2 months, it was just completely immersed in Adam. And coming out of it was quite an eye-opener. I mean, my mom is here in studio today, and she can tell you there'll be days I'll be home silent, can't talk, not talking, because it's constantly going through your head. And I did something different this time. We actually went out, and I went as Adam, not as Shion. Yeah. Went in costume with the hat, everything, and looking at the world through his lens was completely different. But that's just the way I was taught and trained. I approached it academically and then just dove into the psyche and tried my best to adopt it. And Georgetown showed a lot to us because we only finished a quarter of the film by the time it got to Georgetown Film Festival. And at the film festival, everyone was shocked. You could hear a pin drop in the room when they looked at it. And it was so different from the other films regionally because we were able to show this pure emotional character. And you don't see men showing emotions. You don't see men going through that cycle of trying to be strong, of breaking down, of opening up. And I think there was a lot of trust in the crew, the director, assistant director, and myself, to allow me to reach that point where I was able to bring those emotions basically to life.
So we have to take a short break, but certainly when we come back, and we'll show the trailer again during the break, just to really dissect I know you mentioned about it the trauma is something that's very evident, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but globally. But if there's some attachment to that, whether it be personal experience or persons around you that gave you the inspiration for the film, and whether or not, I know it's a fine line, but you know, sometimes the best comedians in the world are the ones that really just give a real story and make people laugh because they can associate with it. Would you then say, and just really quickly before we go to the break, would you then say that the applause or the lack thereof, in terms of you can hear a pin drop, people were in awe of the relatability to it, which probably correlates with that there had to be good storytelling and good acting, as opposed to just looking at a show sometimes and going, hey, that was a real good show.
I think it was the relatability because we all have experienced some sort of heartbreak or issues in our life, but I think for people, it was the first in the Caribbean to have a film approach or do a character study in such an artistic way and break it up into acts and follow this character. And like we say, it's basically an odyssey of tragedy. And you can see people identified with it. You could literally hear a pin drop in the room.
So we're taking a short break. We're discussing trauma through the lens of the film Friends. We'll be right back.
I have been shopping at Price Club from the beginning. I love most of all the friendliness of the staff.
I shop there because my children love me and I love
My favorite section is the vegetarian section. They have such a wide variety, which I love.
I have been out shopping, to check out the prices, but here at the lowest, it's the best.
I have tried other places and I came right back to Price Club because they are the low price leader.
Let's do this. You can get the help you need to succeed with Rand Credit Union. You can believe that you can achieve. Big goals, small ones too. Rand Credit Union, we've got you. No more waiting, that won't do. Make someday today. One life, so make it good. Live the way you know you should. With Rand Credit Union, yes you could. Make someday today.
Live your best life today with Rand Credit Union.
Christmas time, let the fiesta begin. Food basket superstore, come and step right in. Pots and pans shining, cookware so bright. Mini appliances ready for your Christmas night. Pretty decorations, dancing with cheer. Toys for the children waiting right here. Curtains and bedding, sparkle and flow. Everything to make your home glow. Arima Golf View, Pinot come true. Bring alegria and Christmas to you. Food basket superstore shine so bright. Big deals, big joy, everything right. Food basket superstore, where shopping is a pleasure and the price is right.
Yo, it's your boy Crazy Legs and welcome to Cravings Christmas, where we're going from house to house. Yes, we're going by your favorite and famous food vloggers, chefs throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and put them to the test and see, could you really cook or make something new for you? And don't forget, people, it's 2 episodes per week, Tuesday at 8 p.m. and Friday at 8 p.m. So join us for Cravings Christmas! Hey! Welcome everyone, it's your boy Crazy Legs, and here what's happening? It's Cravings Christmas. Yes, we're back again. But you happening? We're doing it a little different. We're moving from house to house. Yes, we're going by your favorite chefs, your bloggers, even food reviewers, for you to learn something new and challenge these people and to see, hey, could you really cook? And here the nice thing, only getting 2 episodes per week. Yes, you're getting it on Tuesday and Friday from 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So log on and learn something this season with Cravings Christmas.
This is ManHOOD, and we are discussing trauma today. Rob, I believe you had some questions for me.
Well, I mean, Friends is discussing and looking at mental health, and there are many things that I know off camera we were discussing and having a chat about maybe some of the tools yourself, Akil, as a director, and Shayan as Adam, the character. How did you dig deep to come through that? And I know we had the difference between skill set and talent, and through that talent and even use of skill set to get the tools and the understanding of that character, you may not have dug deep for that role, But it doesn't take away that we've all experienced levels of trauma. Hence, you said you could hear a pin drop when persons in Georgetown saw the film. There's always relatability somewhere, and sometimes, and Johansi, I'm sure, could attest to this, sometimes we don't even realize that something was traumatic. We don't even realize it's something in the past that we tend to brush off and say, I'm okay, or fine, or that's cool, or it didn't bother me. Sometimes you realize later on when you start to unfold how much it may have impacted you, whether it be an ice cream dropped and how people reacted at that point, or how you felt at that point, or something your parents would have said, or something your friends may have said, your peers, or your societal influences. So this is what I really want to get to. What personally may not have been through the show, but outside of that, could you now say to yourself, whether it be in a relationship that may trigger you or has triggered you, that could connect with Adam?
I mean, we have all, as men, been in relationships, and yes, I've been through some bad breakups, things that I believe that could connect to Adam, but the character of Adam is very different. Johansi and I were talking about that, and my breakups or relationships in the past, I would have dealt with it differently because of how I would have been brought up and how
did you deal with it? I don't want to hear from Adam right now.
You want to hear from Sean, right? Dealt with it in terms of trying to understand the reasons for why it happened, learn from it, adapt, and try to grow.
Were you so calculated, measured, and logical?
Not all the time, because emotions would get in the way, but I tried, because for me, I always try to learn, to grow, to be better. And sometimes it may take 3 months, 2 years.
So what did that look like? Was it crying every day? Was it sob? I could tell you when I was going through a breakup, I was a mess. There were days I couldn't tell you what sunlight looked like.
Yeah, I think it was more like isolation, being by yourself with your own thoughts.
There was a period that even during that a breakup that affected you, and you literally feel your heart squeezing, where you may go through even a period of trying to, get your mojo back, where you might even go and check maybe a setter woman. And then during that period, you start to realize, wow, you don't even realize at that time, Johansi, that's not what you want at that point. You're just trying to find a way to ease that pain, and then you go into a period where you don't even want to see anyone.
Well,
like
what I would say is that if simplifying it, so I'm going to simplify trauma, and then I'm going to go into what you say. Trauma in itself is something most times unexpected, right? I just starting with that. Something unexpected that happened, and depending on how we resolve that unexpected thing, it depends on how traumatic it could be to us. So let's say you're speaking about relationship, and let's use relationships. When you go into a relationship, many times you have expectations of someone. So this is what a girlfriend's supposed to be. This is what a wife's supposed to be. From what I know of you, this is how you're supposed to be. And when someone does something opposite to that, it breaks our expectations, right? And most times those expectations sometimes is not necessarily on evidence, is that our concept of this thing called love, or our concept of this thing called relationships. And that optimism comes from here, right? Because when you were speaking, I was thinking of why we call it heartbreak. Why we don't call it something else now? And the heart is something that comes with a certain degree of optimism. So it's not necessarily calculated or scientific or anything. So when it comes to love and it comes to relationship, we come from a place of optimism based on whatever our concept of things are.
But there is something called broken heart syndrome, isn't there? There's an actual feeling or engagement. No?
I never heard.
I am inclined to believe broken heart syndrome is real. How my first relationship went.
But you see, it becomes a syndrome because the first time when we're young, we come up with this concept of what a relationship is supposed to be. And when you meet somebody, we and sometimes unfair to that person, we kind of transpose what we think they're supposed to be also. So when it's not that. It is true. It's like if your whole world turn upside down. I remember my first breakup, just like in the trailer. One day I didn't know if to smile, if to cry, and so I figured out how I feeling, and then how I supposed to feel, and then how I supposed to look and feel to other people, and then a certain period. So like you say 2 weeks pass and month pass. So I tell myself, well, I supposed to be over it by now, but I'm not feeling that. And then somebody else might say something. So this is me now. My whole world turned upside down. My concept of the world and relationships turned upside down. Then I dealing with what society tell me. Then I dealing with what my friends saying, and then I dealing with what
because they themselves don't know how to support you properly. You know, they just like, boy, they just go out and drink.
Yeah,
well,
but
let's go out and do this.
Move on up,
right? And you're like, so you don't know, and that is actually what starts leading to dissociative personality disorder, because now you're bombarded with so many things, right? So this is you here. What you want to do now, there's too much for me, so you kind of now start to dissociate yourself away from it. So it's almost like you're here, but you're not here.
That as an actor, the research that I did, like I said, I spoke with psychiatrists and stuff, and to find that particular disorder, because to understand the psyche of how are you able to withdraw yourself from everything completely to a point that when something does happen, you break. And exactly what you said was through the research, through speaking with people who have been through it, you get to understand the psyche. And so Adam is such a pure, beautiful soul. Given the film is, he does dark, but the purity and the truth behind it is something that a lot of people, like you said, would have experienced and been through, and it was to get that.
So let me ask you for clarification as I'm hearing. One about the film, and two about dissociative personality disorder. The first thing is, what is the difference between that, if there is indeed a difference, and someone who's a recluse? Because it's the same thing. You've removed yourself from any kind of environment, but like you're saying to me, this particular disorder is that even though you've removed yourself, you can trip at a moment where someone just wants to be away from every and anything. So is there clarity in, is there any correlation in, or is it that someone who's reclusive does indeed have this disorder? And the second thing I would ask to unfold would be, you've said it a couple times that he's a pure, nice person, so to speak, which we're not, you would know better about Adam. The nice guy that you keep referring to him as, is that as a result of the traumatic experience that it is almost putting him in a position that I will consciously or subconsciously not want to ever be like that, never want to, like, for example, if he had children, he would never abuse his children, or if he was in a breakup, he would never treat a woman in a particular way because he recognizes, I don't want to be of that. And again, this could be subconscious or conscious, but at the same time, he is one shout or one moment away from becoming that negative person, because you still have all that trauma that you haven't effectively dealt with.
I think,
do we ever deal with it?
You hit the nail on the head. Essentially, it's more subconscious. His intentions in the film are pure, and for me, that's what made him good, in the sense that his intentions towards the girl, towards his friends were pure, they were good.
I'd say, from my perspective, because a lot of people are going to interpret him differently because of how they come into the movie.
But you wrote the character,
so I have a little bit of authority.
Exactly.
I would say Adam is a very pure person, but I don't think he's a good person. And that is the difference. There is sincerity to everything that he does in the film. He means what he does. But that may not be the best thing for the people around him.
Perfect. And I'm glad you said, because from the first segment, when you keep saying pure, right, I wanted to question that, because I think everybody's sincere, but the expression of the sincerity may not always be in alignment with everybody else. Yeah. And that comes from whatever you experience in life, right? So I could say trauma, I could say the way your parents brought you up, because the way my parents brought me up, whether it is you want to say it could be traumatic or not, or mid, may not be in alignment with how I treat other people or certain people. And I'm putting it that way because you also say you're not good. Right? And then I'll come into what you asked me earlier, Robert. Mental illness and mental disorders in general, most times should be based on a spectrum, not necessarily hard and fast. Yes, you could look in certain books and see there are certain markers that if you see these symptoms that you could diagnose a person as such, but it also comes with that time period. And then there's nuances of the human being. So being a recluse could be a symptom of a traumatic experience, right? Or it could be a symptom of something else. And then sometimes even this word dissociative personality disorder, in maybe about 5, maybe 10 years ago, that was originally called multiple personality disorder. Correct. So sometimes things of names change with things. But if you want to look at more, is the result of it. Why is it happening? And many times, and I'll say this is a male-specific thing. There's some research that I haven't finished yet, but I'm still in the process of. It started when I heard women have a higher threshold for pain than men. I don't know if you all ever heard that.
Yeah, all the time.
Right? Yeah. So doing some research, I realized that is not true, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, I would say so.
Right? But let me explain why.
You ever push a baby?
Listen,
or you could make that determination.
Listen, this is
views and expressions by this gentleman are not that of
cool, but you could Google it, because men generally, our amygdala, right, and our brain, which is the pain center, is generally 5 to 10 times bigger than women. Right, larger than women, which means our pain receptors are more. So it's not that women have the capacity to feel pain more, their pain receptors are smaller. So the pain they feel would be less even from the same experience. So that's why for childbirth, let's just say if a man experiencing it, because our pain center higher, we mightn't be able to withstand it. Now, I'm putting that in the context with what we're doing.
So we're amplifying everything more than...
Correct.
So the pain is still... So the experience is still the same experience, what is happening to you, but our brains are multiplying it.
Right. Yeah. And that's not only physical pain, because the amygdala is mental, emotional, psychological, all forms of pain. And then if you look at from...
So we take a breakup harsher then. It's not just ego at that point. We take in that to the point of...
Yes. Now, of course, I could add in all the values for life and how you grow up, but let's go straight physiological first, the hard way. So then a male brain versus a female brain. A male brain, we have less connections between the left and right, but we have more connections in each side, which means that's why a man would have more of a one-track mind. And then because we have more connections, when something happens and we hold it inside, it ruminates longer. So that's why I put in it that way, that men, we're not even meant to hold things inside, you know, because we have so many connections that just stays there. And then with our amygdala being higher, you feel more pain and more pain. So therefore, when your brain detects there's too much pain, you know what? Let me dissociate myself from this. So if Adam feeling the pain, right now Adam feeling too much pain, so you know what? Let me be John tomorrow. Right? Yeah. Let me be Harry the next day. So that's how now this dissociative personality disorder start happening. And even us men, right? And I'm sure even those watching could relate. Many of us men, we could be sitting down in a situation, sitting down talking to somebody, but it's looking at them, but you're not there, you know. Yeah. Right? You're somewhere else. And that is dissociating in the moment, because let's just say you really want to talk to the person, right? So let you call that painful in the moment. Your brain say, I don't want to go through this, you know. So let me dissociate myself. And then if you continue practicing this, or it happens on a more intense scale, what happens eventually is you develop dissociative personality disorder, because you're just so accustomed doing it.
So we're not built to keep things in, but yet still what we see with men, which is why this is so perfect, it's being a space of courage and for men to talk and to embrace and to cry and to discuss together, is that you find women a lot of times say with their significant other that he doesn't communicate or he holds things in, which is not natural, but yet still there's a need amongst your boys or your friends where you communicate, whether it be bar talk or whether you go and you have a boys' night, men talk. But now we're seeing that men aren't being their brother's keeper. That brotherhood isn't there because it's really about, if I'm saying something, I'm just saying it to you. I'm not really taking on what you may need or being there for that particular support. Or if I'm hearing you, I'm not hearing you to support, I'm hearing you really just to go back and tell the significant other or someone else, hey, you're not going on with Cheyenne boy, or you're not going on Akil boy, or you're not going on with Johanse, and you're not really there genuinely, sincerely, in a positive way, with the best. And I use the word sincerely, and I'm saying positive, because even though you may be sincere, or the approach or faux in that particular moment, it's not being received. Whether, and when I say received, meaning they may feel you're there in support, but it's not being received because the follow-up action isn't sincere. Because you're really not there to help them, you're just there to
that
pretend.
occurs in some cases, and that's why even more it exists, even though the narrative is that it is rare that it exists. There are men who, and I'm sure each one of us hopefully have at least one person that we could talk to sincerely, that one person that would actually listen to us. And I'm saying, as us as men, not necessarily a female, that there's a brethren, or uncle, or somebody that we could speak to and relate to that would actually listen to us. And those maybe who don't have that, right? And because you don't have that outlet, that's why then you may keep things inside. Now, I don't really agree with this to the fullest extent, but I understand why it occurs. Sometimes you wonder why people is put the personal information on the internet. Why people is, because sometimes you just need to get it out.
The Instagram story really going through rough things right now.
Right.
You want to be heard. You want to be heard.
You want somebody to reach out and say, hey,
exactly.
I see the story, what's going on?
That's it.
Right.
But what I like right now is the need to go to a break. So I'd like for us to go to a break.
Perfect.
Yeah?
That's good.
All right, so we talking about through dealing with trauma through the lens of the film Friends.
It's the mega $20 sale at Passat's Food King. Get bigger, better deals on Catelli Ketchup 750 ml, 3 packs now $20. Sting Energy Drink 6 cans now $20. Fruited Juice 1 liter 2 now $20. Orchard Drink 250 ml 5 for $20. Coca-Cola 2 liter 2 bottles $20. Cold 2 liter 3 bottles $20. Pear Track 300 ml 3 now $20. Juicy 500 ml 7 bottles $20. And there's more mega deals on Golden Brand Margarine 3 sticks now $20. Flavorite Ice Cream Sandwichery now $20. Gilchrist Yogurt 4 tubs now $20. 10 gala apples $20. Carrots 3 packs now $20. Fresh Harvest Chani and Brine 3 tins now $20. Richport Vegetable Oil 500 ml 2 bottles $20. Catelli Pasta Cups 4 packs $20. That's real value, real savings. Real food for the season. Mega $20 deals valid until January 11 or while stocks last.
Quality value, that's our way. A real Bushside, we're here to stay. The food keep sides.
Plumbing problems? Don't guess. Call Plumbing Solutions at 628-4646. Proud to be serving Trinidad and Tobago for over 20 years. We do it all. Maintenance and repairs, new construction, sewer lines, inspection, drain cleaning, leak detection. We are licensed and insured. So call Plumbing Solutions at 628-4646.
Ever wonder how the way you start your day can make all the difference? Tired of waking up struggling with congestion? Without NeilMed sinus rinse, you are likely to battle with nasal congestion, impacting energy levels and overall well-being. The choice is clear. A great morning starts with NeilMed sinus rinse. Now I can't imagine starting my day without it. All natural sinus relief.
whoa. Please. What do you think about the PNM in opposition?
Now, opposition is a force. So if the opposition opposes our next opposition, is it really an opposition? Do you think Barry will be able to give water to all? Okay, for that question, tune in to the rundown on CNC3. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Yeah. All right?
We're good.
Are we doing the people's work?
Yeah, where?
No, the people's work. It's done on CNC3 on the rundown. Oh, you thought it was here?
Yeah, but
No, it's done on CNC.
This is ManHOOD, and we're talking about dealing with trauma. So in terms of writing friends, and at least how I relate to the story and stuff like that, parts of that is because I mainly grew up in like almost entirely female household, so I kind of had to be the man of the house in a lot of those cases. And what was kind of like a really kind of the first idea for what would become the story of Friends, because it evolved over the course of the story, was this idea of I had, gotten like a new job, I'd gotten like a new apartment and stuff like that, but I've always loved film and writing and I wanted to get into it, but I didn't want to just make up a story that I'm not related to or anything like that. And when I was, reading the papers, watching the news and stuff like that, I felt like there was a lot of news about a lot of men losing their mind. Every other week, there's some story about some dude that like goes off the deep end. He kills his family, he kills himself, and I felt like that was part of a larger issue. What is happening to the men of Trinidad and Tobago, where they keep all of these emotions bottled up? And because I was in a very kind of female-focused household and stuff like that, I learned from a very young age to talk about your feelings. Mommy, I don't want to go to school today, them boys on my case, and when talking with, more men in my life and stuff like that, I realized how kind of rare it was to be in a household where you could be entirely vulnerable, and how kind of suffocating that could be for a lot of guys, because you hit the nail on the head, Jancy, you have to get out. And we have all of these men that would go 25, 30, 40 years of their life without ever having someone to confide in. And from like that idea, I started to think more about, well, what kind of person is that? When people say this stuff comes out of the blue, it usually doesn't.
Right.
It's a culmination of years and years and years of keeping stuff buried down. And between that thought process and my own love for cinema, it just felt like that's something I could focus on, but specifically from the male side. I can sit here and talk about the woman's role in these kind of things. But what I could do is look at the man's role in these kind of things from a level of empathy, that, it is okay to cry. It is okay to feel these emotions you're going through. When you go through a bad breakup and it feels like the end of the world, that is not something you have to just put on a tough face and like pretend you're not going through it. Because in a lot of ways, if you don't address it, if you don't acknowledge the fact that you need help or you need a support system, it could turn you into a monster in some cases.
So would you say that, have you addressed, or would you look at it as any levels of trauma? You said you grew up in a predominantly female household. I am assuming when you say predominantly, the only other male was yourself.
Yes.
And so there's an absence of a father figure. Did that bring you any trauma? Is that something you feel you've suppressed, or your community around you has helped you or assisted you in feeling secure and safe? But surely going to schools or in your environments, you would have asked the question, where his dad?
Oh, absolutely. I was in a single mother household, and I knew my dad, but he doesn't live in the household, and they were kind of like estranged. And it had I think a very deep impact on me, because especially when you get to like your teen years, when I was around 13, 14, going into like secondary school, my mom was battling cancer at the time, and she had passed, I think, like coming into like Form 3. So I was in this spot where I felt like I really had no one. And being in that spot where you don't really have that much of a support system, while also trying to figure out what kind of man do I want to be, you kind of just start watching the world around you, trying to see if I could pick up, all right, well, who do I want to be by myself?
So
and I was in a really dark place for a long time.
How much of you is in Adam?
I would probably say, based on what he does in the film, not much. But I think the core of Adam's character that I could relate to the most, I think, is this really, really simple feeling of how much loneliness I think it hurts. It's not just like, I think, some absent feeling truly alone, feeling like you have no one on your side, feeling like your friends are not really your friends, all these different kind of things can be a bit of a sharp pain. I have some friends of mine that, post secondary school, the transition period where you don't talk to your old friends that more, you're in university and stuff like that. A lot of them reached out to me for that same reason, because loneliness could feel like your chest hurting, It feels like it's sometimes difficult to breathe and stuff like that. And I'd say that's one of the main things that I relate to for Adam is, loneliness.
So, remiss of me not to show all of our viewers this very cool, I don't know how much of it you're getting here, this very cool poster. This is Iman himself, Sheon, and I'm looking at, we'll put up a better graphic than this on the screen, but the title here is, what the tagline is here is, "This is what love looks like." So specifically, I'm not trying to dent your poster or anything, right? This is what love looks like. So we're coming back to your experiences of child abuse, what your experience of love from parents would have felt like, and then going into a relationship, and then your perception of love there not happening in the way that you would have expected it to happen. So to you, love meant something totally different. To say I'm loved, or even may have been loneliness, but you hearing that word was not a positive thing.
In my case, I was fortunate. My brother and I, we had our mom growing up a lot. She was a huge part of our lives, just filled it with a lot of love. And
this is Sheon or Adam?
Sheon.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
right.
You're not talking about Adam or Sheon?
I was referring to Adam.
Okay.
I want to talk to Sheon, as you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So let's get Sheon out.
Yeah. So I really didn't understand what jealousy, hate, and these things were until I started secondary school. And that was because we grew up, mom just filled our lives with just so much love and, protection and stuff like that. So dealing with breakups, I was fortunate. I had a good support system. Like everybody else, you cry, it doesn't take a day or two. But my support system, I got both tough love, soft love, but the type where I had to learn. So I'm
gonna call you BS, right? Because I know what it feels like, and I know, and what happens is, like everything else, you're over it. You've either hardened, or you've learned, and you've moved on, or you found new love, and sometimes you don't even remember or recall a lot of times, whether that's a coping mechanism or not, that pain or that grief that you went through, because a lot of people refer to even a bad breakup as like a death, but worse, because the person's still alive. You know, you still see them, you hear about them, they've moved on, they're doing all these other things, and it's just like this recurring decimal of pain or stabbing in your life, dependent on your scenario, whether you really have indeed coped appropriately. So I know where you are now, but that period in the movie, in the film Friends, it's a dark space. That's what love looked like for you as Adam, but I'm talking about let's go back to a period of, I mean, you pick one, pick a particular woman, whoever you fell for hardest. What was that trauma like? And let's have a sense of what that trauma felt like and how you took steps to come out of that, or what were one of the main things that you can now look back at and say, okay, well, this is what happened. So whether it be your mom or a friend said something in particular, that you can now say in hindsight that this was the start of you emerging from that pain. So that persons looking on can go, okay, or support. Persons can know, this is how I can support my brother, my cousin, my whoever.
So Shayon, right?
Shayon,
right.
Yeah. And then we'll talk
about Adam. Yeah. Heartbreak, terrifying, scary, terrifying. It, like you said, it almost feels like someone, like death. But the first thing that helped me emerge from it, which took a while, was to understand my worth as Shayon, understand who I am and what my worth is, or my own value. And
I want to stick a pin in that, because something you said earlier, by a typical male response is normally, boy, forget she ain't worth it, or people will tell you all of these things, even your mom and your friends around you, to say how great a guy you are. Even your female friends may come and say, but you could get any woman, you are this and you are that. But does it really help any moment? Are you really listening to any of that at the time?
It depends, It depends, because having someone you consider, you care about, tell you how much you're worth could do something for you, Because if at the moment you're feeling unworthy, because let's just say the person broke up with you, so you feeling rejected, right? You could question your worth. And or if you had a lot of your identity wrapped up in the relationship and it's no longer there, you would question your worth. So I would say, even though it may not be the pill that solves everything, but hearing somebody tell you about your worth, and even if they have to, you say the word worthy, your friends or whoever could remind you of your accomplishments, which sometimes we forget. Sometimes we forget how worthy we are because of the breakup, because of the trauma that happened. Because of and I like how you use the loss, because again, remember I was saying trauma is something unexpected that happens, right? And if when we with somebody and we really love them, we're not expecting to break up with them. We're not sometimes we see in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road.
Lifetime,
right? And then we get, which sometimes could be an error, because we get attached now to something that is not real. So then now when it break up, the thing that we get so attached to, we now have to release. But sometimes we get so attached to it that when we get the loss, we go through the stages of grief. And stage of grief is denial. So first, nah boy, I can't believe this happened now. Okay. Then second stage is anger. So yeah, well, what to she boy? What's she getting on so forward, right? Bargaining, which is, well, I wonder if I talk to her again or I do this again. And then the next stage is depression, where this really happened when you start, and then the last stage is acceptance. Now it's not as linear as that, because you could reach depression and fly back to anger, you could so forth and so on. But I put it that way because sometimes, and I think sometimes the error is that we put something on someone that we can't predict, and then we have to figure out now how the thing that we so attached to now is no longer there, how we dealing with it.
But I also like how you wrapped up the fact about identity. Like, did you wrap your identity around that person, which is an ego, and it's a lot harder then to disassociate from that person, because whether you had that person on a pedestal or whether you felt that person brought something to your life, or whether they had a particular career or opened doors for you, whatever it was, your lack maybe your own self-esteem or where you want to go, or bravado or courage was locked into that person. So when that's now removed, be it, sometimes it could be something as simple as, how they could have do this to me, or I thought I was the Don Juan de Marco, so to speak, and how I could get butt boy, or how this could happen, and all of these different things coming up. But again, wrapping it up into someone else as opposed to seeing it yourself as an individual. Because if you see yourself as an individual, I can understand someone in your support system reinforcing that can help you out of it. Mm-hmm. But if you're not, and you're in that, it almost can anger you, because you can be like, well, everybody sees me like this. I am this person. I know I'm worth more. Why am I still...
Yeah, why did it happen?
Yeah, why did it happen? And why am I still, as you said, bargaining and all that? Why am I still yearning to go back and almost get next dose? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't indeed make sense. So what would you say is your second step, coming back to, removing the pin now, coming back to when you said you had a support system of persons telling you how good a person you were and your own worth. What would be the next, what were some of the other steps that took you out of that grieving process?
Redirection of energy, thoughts, and focus. I dive deep into trying to understand that, because where your attention goes, your energy goes. And it was trying to put my attention, my focus on something else, something to improve myself, or just something else. And
acting?
Well, acting, yeah. And through that process, that helped a lot. It helped a lot to sort of close these certain doors. And, the universe is like a vacuum. You close one door, another one opens. And it's a process. It's not a wake up one day and you're good to go, run out the door. It's a process, yeah.
Because you run out that door, you run 5 feet, and then you come back in.
You come straight back in, yeah.
The different things. What's the term, Johan, say, for persons who don't like to leave home? Is it agoraphobia?
Agoraphobia, people who are afraid of crowds. But, I mean, because of your concept of yourself, right? Because most of these things are based on how you view yourself in relation to the world. So if you think you're not worthy, you don't even have to be a crowd. You're afraid to just see anybody, because seeing that person, I may not be worthy. The person may laugh at me. Sometimes we have all these thoughts. And listening to this over and over, I just thinking about men out there who unsure of themselves, right? Men, and I go through periods of it where, depending on the environment, I know I'm strong in a certain environment, but our next environment, I'm unsure of myself. So all of us, I think, go through these turbulent waters.
So being on this set?
What's that?
You're sure of yourself on this set? That's good.
Yes. Yes.
I want you to communicate and express yourself, and if not, let me reassure you, you do an okay job.
It's manhood, you can say what you feel.
I appreciate that, gentlemen. I appreciate you all.
I said an okay job. Let's not.
But I think that what you said is one big reason what made Friends the type of film it became, and the good reception that we got, because we addressed that from a male's perspective, and we were able to show that. And I mean, you can tell there's this point of learning as a character about heartbreak, self-acceptance, all these different things, but to try and capture that within the framework of that film, I think that's what we were able to do, and that's what makes it different. And at least that's why we got the reception that we were able to get because of it.
So a lot of the poster, even in the trailer, it's all designed to look dark, and the colors and the graphics and so on. But in his eyes, Adam's eyes, you just see a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. There's just pain. So again, this is what love looks like. In his world, it's pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is very intentional. And adding to the larger conversation you're having right now about like insecurity and stuff like that. That's something that I think was a really illuminating experience for me as well during the entire production, because Friends was the first script I've ever written. It's my first time directing and stuff like that. So as it started to become a lot larger and larger and larger, because we was joking about it before we came in, the goal was to actually put it in TT Film Festival. But I had no experience in any of this stuff. So when we were first like approaching Cheyenne for him to star in the film, I was like, we're going to crack it out in like 2 weeks in time for like TT Film Festival. And after I think like the first day of film, when he sat down with us and he's like, I think you need to temper your expectations.
Yeah, that was all like Pizza Hut meeting. We were like, fellas, there's not no 2 weeks. Yeah.
But when you have almost like no experience like myself, and then you have, Irish trained actor with a decade of experience and stuff like that. Now, when it became a lot bigger than it was, I had a lot of days when I was like, am I really the right fit for this? Even though I wrote it, even though he's telling me it's a great script, but I'm asking myself, but is it that good? You know?
Imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
You start to go through that.
What if I write it and it's terrible?
Would you say that passion, dedication, and determination got you over that hurdle? Because there was the passion based on your experiences of seeing what was around you, and also the understanding where you came from. It's like, okay, well, I've come from this. You were fortunate to come from that particular background, and then you'd have gone through your own levels of pain with your mom's passing, for example, and having to emerge through that, and not just be the only man in the household. Now you are the only person that you can depend on, that really drove to say, I knew what you wanted. You knew exactly what you wanted to see through the lens.
Yeah. I'd say it was about 50-50. Part of it was entirely ego. You know, there were some days I was like, well, I mean, I write it, so who else going to direct it? But there were other times where I felt like really insecure about it and stuff like that, and that's why I had Shea, and that's why I had the director of photography right over there. There was this moment where I really, really thought, I can't really want to do it. And it's when I spoke with some of them that they gave me some really, really good advice, which was, regardless of however it turns out, if it turns out according to at least how it was in your head, or whatever the case may be, the most you could do is the best that you could do. And once I started thinking about it from that perspective, it was a lot easier to appreciate the fact of making a movie. Some of it looks really good. People really resonated with the characters, and the most important thing was not just having that internal passion, but having a support system of people around you. All of us together building this kind of dream and stuff together, and that helped quite a bit with that imposter syndrome, because
that's how you were dealing with your trauma.
That's how I was dealing with it, with the people around me, because if I'm wrong about myself, maybe. Everybody around me wrong, that don't make any sense. And us doing that stuff together, helping each other out, having the people around us to kind of feed that back into was very, very important, because no man is island.
But one great thing, if I may say, no spoilers, but there was a particular scene where Adam broke down completely. And it was just 3 of us in the apartment at the time filming that scene. And it was such a emotional and heavy scene. And as men, the first thing that these guys asked, are you okay? Do you want to talk? Do you want to take a break? Do you want to pause? Do you want to sit down? Do you want to talk? And my response was, did you get this scene?
Yeah. The camera's rolling?
The camera, did you get it? But you got that very true emotions, and we learned a lot as men. And you learn that we do all need avenues and people, brothers you could rely on to talk for certain things. Yeah.
So before we go into our closing thoughts, which you're very welcome to speak directly to the audience, and make your own appeal for people to love themselves genuinely and not love through pain, but in the pain know that they are loved. the obvious question, we know it's in certain festivals, but is it something that's going to be coming to, say, Movie Town? I had the privilege of being able to get a copy, but I mean, I don't think someone can go, hey, okay, let me send me the link to the film now.
Message me on WhatsApp.
Message me on WhatsApp. Where does one get to see the...
So it is going to be coming out in certain cinemas in the very near future, next month. It's too early for me to say, but they can expect to see more stuff very, very soon about where they can watch it.
Well, that's
Let's
great.
just say it rhymes with Schmooby Hound.
So that's good to know. I mean, without a specific date, you normally see coming soon.
Yeah.
At least persons know it will be available for them to see locally
next month.
And well, you say next month. You don't know when this show coming out, right?
We've been hopeful.
This episode will be coming soon. So. I mean, Akil, let me start with you with regards to you having written and directed the film and doing a really, really great job, not just as a first timer but just as a filmmaker. People say you always hear a lot of times when people say, well, based on for a woman or for a man, you did a good job. When it's no, you just did a good job. So in this case, it's not just as a first time filmmaker. The film is good. But again, we'd leave that to, and the messaging, more importantly, is one that is absolutely needed right now, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but globally. So, your closing thoughts? You could tell it to me, or you could...
For the loyal viewers at home, the most I could say is... You're not alone in anything that you do. The mere fact that you're watching this show shows that you are loved, and there are communities that exist for you. Whether through it's just this show, whether it's to your friends, family, whatever the case may be, I would just say, from someone that is currently going through a crazy period in your life right now, there's always further you could go. There's always more heights that you could reach. And I believe anyone watching this right now has the potential to do whatever they want to do. So whatever heartbreak you might be going through right now, whatever insecurities, whatever self-doubts you may have, I believe that you're watching this episode right now for a reason. And I think you're going to be okay.
Okay. Sure. You could top that?
You could try.
I think so.
As Adam or Sharon?
Well,
both? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. No, for anyone experiencing anything in their lives that that affects them in a negative way, my advice would be that hope lies in the silence of our hearts. So don't lose that. It's there. You just have to find it. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
That was good.
Yeah. I just thinking. I mean, I'm not even going to try to top it. But
you see, why are we trying to top it?
We're not. I said it.
Just speak vulnerably, and that's why I'm just expressing appreciation to both of y'all. One, for coming on the show, and two, I really appreciate every time we do an episode to see just different versions of men. Right? Because I learn something from every version of men, and men watching, you all could see is just different version of men. So it's not to say you have to be this one thing. It's impossible, because God made everybody unique, and even if you don't believe in God, He created the universe. However, He create everybody unique, and I think that we all here to express that. So therefore, if we keep it inside, we actually not doing what we were meant to do. And we learn today that, especially as men, we not created to keep things inside at all. So it's to be able to let it out. You may not always have the safest space, but one, we have things like manhood, seek it out. There's a saying, seek and you will find. if you have something inside, do your best. Whether even if it's not speaking to somebody, you create something, you write something, you do something, you play a sport, something to get it out so that it doesn't stay within you and that you implode. And we feed into the stereotype of men need to keep everything inside. We hear that all the time, but we know that that's not healthy. We know that now what we're supposed to do. And this shows more evidence that after a while that wouldn't even be true anymore.
So part of your conversation or your closing remarks there were talking about people who refer to whether you believe in God or your creator or whatever you believe in. I am not part of that conversation. God is the boss and everybody else is just pretending. Express yourself. Express yourself. Always, there's that phrase, horses for courses. There's always someone. There's someone out there. Find your tribe. Find your community. Whether it be in a bar, whether it be in a church group, whether it be, a sporting community. Find that person who is genuinely sincere in allowing for you to express yourself openly, honestly, and that you receive also what you're giving. I mean, there's always that people say, in that moment when you're looking for something, continue to give and you shall indeed receive. But it can't be where someone is just being a dumping ground and just calling you and telling you things and you're not getting anything from that person. Because they're expressing themselves, they're releasing that information, but you indeed also need to have your own viewpoints heard. It was said perfectly by Akil, Shea and Johanse, not trying to top that in any way, shape, form or fashion. Very profound and powerful discussion here today. I myself have learned a lot how to deal with trauma. And trauma is not necessarily, there are different levels of trauma, whether it be from stubbing your toe and somebody telling you something at that point, or somebody telling you how your shirt fit in, or your ball, or you're putting on weight, how that may affect you at that particular point, all the way to the loss of a parent, a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one. And when I say loved one, a loved one who still lives. Yeah. There are many levels of that trauma. And I like, Sharon, when there are many steps, and a big step to that is, of course, your support system around you and knowing that you are enough. The two things humanity needs is to know that you are loved and to know that you are enough. And you are. Continue to watch shows like ManHOOD, where we are a space of courage. We are better, always aiming to be better as brothers. And taking it one step at a time. So this was ManHOOD, dealing with trauma. Johanse, Sheon, Akil. When the film comes out, coming soon, don't know just yet, but keep looking. Friends.
Oh, Adam, I didn't want to do it like this, but nothing else made sense. I'm sorry. This is for the best. I'm moving to San Fernando. Tesfa set me up with a place temporarily, and I don't want you to visit me.
Stay away from me. You can't. Keep me away from her. You make up some whole fantasy about, it's true love, but that's not the truth, man.
I think we need some time apart.
I know you don't believe that. I know that. I never learned how to love. I never did. And if you give me another chance, I will do everything. And I will not stop until I get it right.
that wasn't healthy. But you never know, maybe someday in the future we can still be.
Manhood, brought to you in part by Solomon's Bespoke.
Season's greetings from all of us at CNC3.
The Morning Brew is brought to you by Omega XL.